Hey, Foxy listener, thank you for tuning in to episode 51. In today's episode, we talk with Georgia based author and empowerment coach, Artisha T. Bolding. She is the head of T Bold Media Group and is best known for her loud belly laughs and her love of people. As a speaker and consultant, T has spent the last decade providing career, relationship, and spiritual advice to clients and even groups of teenagers. Since her early days at Howard University, impacting people has been a serious passion for this lipstick chick. We sat down and talked about how life can change in a moment and how you view it can make a difference. So grab yourself a notebook and sit back and enjoy this episode with me and T.
Welcome to Fox Talks Business Podcast with your host, Tanya Fox. Tanya has been an entrepreneur for over 20 years, owning retail, service, and franchise. She holds no punches and is never afraid to talk about the nitty-gritty. Together, you'll explore the good, the bad, and the motivational of business life, turning obstacles into opportunities and failures into successes. So grab your favorite drink and let's have some fun. Here's your host, speaker, crafter, and collaborator, Tanya Fox.
Thank you so much for joining me on the show today, T. I'm so excited to have you here.
It's absolutely my pleasure, Tanya. Thank you for having me.
So tell us a little bit about your story of how you kind of got to where you are today, because it is quite an interesting story.
Interesting is putting it mildly, I would say. I will say that I definitely, for the longest years and years, had an entrepreneurial streak, right? But I got thrust into this. It was just like the universe said, okay, girl, enough is enough. You've got to go out there and do your thing. So my last traditional job, I was working on a nuclear power plant construction site, if you can believe that.
Wow.
So I'm all, lipstick, mascara. I get, hair extensions down my back. But there I was on the construction site, hard hat, steel-toed boots, the whole nine. And I was there for about 18 months. But the last 4 months on the job, I became very sick out of nowhere. I mean, I'm a perfectly healthy 38-year-old. And I'm not proud of this part of my story, but to the point that I didn't even have a primary care doctor. Perfectly healthy. And out of nowhere, I developed respiratory and cardiac issues that till this day are still unexplainable.
Right.
But what I tell clients and folks that I work with, aspiring entrepreneurs, I tell them that if you don't do your soul work, your soul will become sick, and beware because your body can become sick. And I totally believe that's what happened to me. So I was hospitalized 4 times. I was literally in the hospital November, January, March, and May. And in May, I actually went into a coma. And that is just really when the light bulb went off for me. It's like, okay, I need to really get still and find out, what do I want to do? Like, if this is my last chance, what is the mark that I want to leave in the world? So I knew then that my life would never be the same. If I made it out of the hospital, because at that point, I didn't even know if I would, right? Very scary for myself and my family. But I immediately began to journal. In fact, one of my aunties, she sent like candy, pens, and like tons of notebooks. And I was just writing. I was sharing my story with even the hospital staff, other families, and everything. And so I said, okay, there is something to this. There is power in this. And so there in the hospital bed is where my purpose just became reignited. And what I do, my business and life motto is conquering great things with power, passion, and purpose. So my mission as it stands right now is to help people discover their purpose and empower them to be brave enough to go after a life that's going to be fulfilling and purpose filled.
That's well, not wonderful what happened to you, but that you came out of it, of course. But
Yes, yes.
what do you find, like, in the clients that you deal with, like, that's obviously everybody's main goal is, the question we always ask ourselves is like, why am I here? What
Yes.
do I have to offer? What do you find the biggest struggle is for people in really discovering that?
You know what it is? And I hope it doesn't sound cliche, but more often than not, what I have found with clients when they're on this, kind of discovery journey and really wanting to know, okay, what should I be doing? What should my legacy be? I really find that it's that nagging self critic, that inner critic, and that defeated mindset. That's what I have to hack away at and really get them to just kind of melt that down and say, okay, you know what? You are enough. You are smart. You are gifted. You wouldn't believe that people, even with different successes, right? Whether it's corporate, whether they had a previous business adventure or what have you, people still deal with self doubt. And I saw a graphic on social media somewhere, but it literally is like a huge boulder that you're trying to push up a mountain. And it's like, let that go. Come on.
Yeah. And I think that's true because I think people do tend to struggle, or we tend to second guess. We tend to think,
Yes.
you know, I can do this, but what are others going to think if I take this path, or if I, if this is the journey. We always think what are other people going to think?
Yes. And then we also, so it's, the self doubt. And then the thing where there's so many people in market doing it already. Why should I go out and do it? And I borrowed this from another coach, but I encourage clients, anytime you have that question and you're thinking about, well, there's so many people doing it already, take a walk down the bread aisle. There are 20 different kinds of bread, all shapes and sizes, all different flavors, from 20 or more different companies. And if the bread industry can do it, then we can too, right?
Yeah. And I believe that one of my major things is getting people to tell their stories again. And that all started from sitting around, the dinner table and just sharing stories of hearing, like, when my mom was younger, or, and I remember these stories coming up and going, how do I not know this? Like, how did I make it into my 30s before I heard what your childhood was like? Like, how did I not know you didn't have
Yes.
indoor plumbing? Like, it just seemed like such an obscure
Right?
thought to me, but it wasn't any. And I thought, it's true in what you said, that even though someone else might have a similar storyline to you, there's always different parts to it. And you can hear the same story, 20 times, but somebody just picks that book and reads it differently. And all of a sudden it just clicks with you. So I agree that,
Yes.
we all, somebody else might have a similar story, but you just don't know the person that needs to hear you tell the story.
And about that bravery piece and that discovery piece, it's also very important that we don't shield our tribe, our people that we're connecting with, that we don't shield them from the dark or the yucky parts of our story. Sometimes it's hard to come to grips with it. Also, in repeating it, we almost have to practice that, because sometimes that can be traumatic to even retell it. But again, when we get charged up and we're empowered and we can share that story, that literally could be that linchpin that can really connect you with someone else. And that can literally change lives. I believe that in my heart.
Yeah. And I think it's true. I know, like, the times, when I think back to the times that I felt like I was really, at my bottom, it was those stories of other people that had come out of it, were sharing their stories, that made me kind of go, I gotta stop feeling sorry for myself. Like, like, someone else did this. I'm not alone. And I think
Hmm.
that, sharing those stories and sharing those ideas, not only your successes, but too, when you weren't there, and look, I've been there, this was with the lesson. And just remembering that that's my biggest thing. In every failure, there's a lesson. And those failures that we
Yes.
repeat, it's because whatever it is that you want to believe in is kind of going, okay, we're not going to learn it this way. I'll try this way.
Yes.
You know? Does this
Exactly.
story make more sense to you?
Yes.
We're going to
Exactly.
keep doing this until you figure it out.
That I'm telling you, the cycles of life, that is the truth.
Yeah. So you are a published author. You've actually have 2 books out. So tell us a little bit about those and how they came to be.
I am super, super excited and proud of myself. I don't want to be one of those people, but to come from overcoming a dyslexia diagnosis from a child to being a published author just before the age of 40 was huge for me.
Bet. Yeah.
Huge. So the situation with me in and out of the hospital and that health crisis, that literally birthed both my first book and my podcast that I started about a year ago. So the first book is Journal for Your Journey, and that is actually a prayer book. It's full of daily affirmations, and it really provides what I call that faith shift. So there are things that we need to do to ourselves, coach ourselves, minister ourselves, speak over ourselves. And I know that because that is literally how I went from a hospital bed to an entrepreneur. That's how I went from needing wheelchair assistance and having to be monitored in the shower to where I am today helping other people. It's because I took command of my environment. I spoke things into my atmosphere, and I was able to get that energy back into me. So that's what Journal for Your Journey is about. It really walks you through step by step how to do those things and daily practices. And there's a new practice, a new topic for each day. I am a Christian, so the book is Christian based, but it's universal principles that can be applied. And excuse me, and there are references there. And it really does change your energy for the day. I've found, and folks that I've gotten feedback from, I've found that when they do it either at the beginning or even the end of the day, it really makes an impact into them meeting their goals, getting tasks done, even how they are interacting with their family. So that was really great, and that was extremely well received. And the newest book, it's only been out for a couple of months. It's called Induction to Power. So
Yes.
The first book was The Faith Shift. This book, Induction to Power, I'm also super proud of because this is the mindset shift. This is centered on personal and professional development. It's really for anyone who is really trying to make a change in their life, whether it's small or large, whether it's on that purpose discovery trail, or whether it's thinking about what kind of business, whether it's a relationship goal or a weight loss goal. Right. This is the book for you. Just kind of think about having a different mindset, not a defeated mindset, not a questioning mindset, that second guessing mindset that we mentioned, but just empowering. And I love the subtitle that we went with. It literally says, break up the darkness in your life, burst with light, and walk in purpose. And that is exactly what you get in this book. It's full of nuggets that are going to help folks turn that corner.
That's exciting. And so where are these books available?
The Journal for Your Journey has been out for a while now. So you can get both books, and I offer a bundle actually on my website, which is tboldmedia.com. That's the letter T, then the words boldmedia.com. And we have print copies that we're sending out all the time. And Journal for Your Journey, we actually were able to complete an ebook version. Oh. So that is available on both Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And those links are on my website as well.
Perfect. And we'll make sure we link to all of those places as well on the in our episode notes as well. So tell
Yeah.
us a little bit more about your company, because you were kind of in a different world. So what made you decide to sort of start this company, and what is your goal with the company, with the T-Bold Media?
So yes, T-Bold Media Group, I uh was, my brainchild, literally coming right out of the hospital. And my mission there is so that folks won't have that pivotal aha moment in the hospital like I did. I share my story because I want people to say, you know what, I'm not really doing something that makes me happy either. I'm stuck kind of in a soulless job as well. I again was working 50 to 60 hours per week on that construction site and a 45-minute commute one way.
Oh my
So I
gosh.
was no good to anyone when I wasn't at work. All I wanted to do is grab a snack and sleep.
Yeah,
And
living for
so
work, you know.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And while I was making very good money, one of the highest paying jobs in my area, I couldn't even enjoy it because I was I was asleep. That was literally
Yeah.
all I could do when I wasn't at work. So I share that story with people so they can connect with those points and so they can say, you know what? I do have soul work that I need to complete. I do want to understand my purpose. Just because my mom was a teacher and my grandma was a teacher, it doesn't mean that I should be teaching. Am I happy with what I'm doing every day? Do I have joy? Do I feel purpose every day? So with T-Bold Media, I say that I wear a lot of hats, but of all the hats that I wear, I most identify as a writer. That's how I fully express what's in my big heart and my big mouth, right? So the heart comes out on the pages and the mouth comes out in the podcast, the Bold Journeys podcast. So on my show, I take a unique look at pop culture, politics, entertainment, and news. And I always couch it in terms of, okay, what's the bigger messaging here for
Right.
us? How does this relate to, is it lining up with what or who I say I am and where I want my life to go? So that's what my whole company is based on, that same concept of conquering great things with power, passion, and purpose. So I'm just looking to connect with folks and to keep them out of the situation that I was in.
Yeah. And I think it's true on our questionnaire that we get everybody. We ask, like, what's the one of the most memorable pieces of advice? And I think it's so true to what you were saying, because you had wrote that it was to be authentic when you tell your story and don't gloss over the dark parts. And I think that
Yes.
that's key, because I think what happens with a lot of people is they think, especially in today's world where it's all about, the glamour shot, let's say, or,
Yes.
the highlights, is what got you to that point was light and dark. And,
Yes.
it's that you need both of them. You can't, a
Yes.
flower does not bloom with 100% sunlight.
That's right. That's right. Oh, I love that analogy. That is absolutely right. And the reason why I say that was some of the best advice that I received, and that's from my spiritual dad or mentor who's in his 60s. He actually had a construction background. He worked at one of the larger plants here locally for about 20 years. And he literally sat me down one day and told me that you telling your story authentically and in full could be deliverance for someone. It literally could be life changing. And so a part of my story that I would always kind of gloss over, that I really wanted to skip a little bit, not so much for me. I'm an open book. I've been that way since a teenager. I used to get in trouble for talking too much, right? But one part that I would always quickly gloss over was the marriage issues that I had from, again, working at that job site and not flowing in purpose. So when I say I wasn't good to anyone outside of that job site. That anyone includes my husband, my mother, and my sister, who is my best friend. No one got any heart to heart time with me. No one got any real communication from me because I was dead tired all the time. And so he said to me, he said, you owe it to yourself and you owe it to your tribe to tell your story in full. And I said, okay, there are some people that may have a problem with that. I said, do I need to meet with these people? And he said, no. He said, you don't even set yourself up to go there. You have to do what you have to do. He said, now, if you want to, if it'll make you feel better, you can give them a heads up. But sitting down and talking and hashing it out and kind of negotiating how they feel and if you should tell, he said, absolutely not. So I had a very quick conversation with my husband, and thank God we are stronger than ever now. Medical crises, as many of us know, can literally tear a family apart because there are not only emotional and health implications, but financial implications. And we were already rocky before this. And so I spoke to him about it, and he says, you've forgiven me, I've forgiven you. He said, you share whatever you want. And I could have cried. I could have cried. And so it's been all fires blazing since then.
Yeah. And I think it's true. I mean, I even remember when I was younger, and for so long, I never shared the story because I always thought my mom ended up retiring quite early. She as well had a health scare, and she ended up retiring early, and her and my stepdad went sailing. They bought a boat and they sailed off into the sunset. And for years, people used to ask me when my mom left. And I said, I was 16 years old. And they, oh, how could your mom leave you? And it wasn't until, about 4 or 5 years ago that my mom goes, you were 18 when I sailed away. And you had not been living at home for over a year when I left. And I was like, no, it was 16, mom, and she said, and I said, why didn't you ever tell me? Like for years, I thought that that's what it was. And she said, because it was your reality. And all of our stories are our own reality. So maybe to you, mentally, that's where you were. Maybe to you, the feeling was that you still needed me, you felt like a child or whatever, but that was your reality. So it was your story to tell. And I thought, what an interesting, take on that. Now, of course, now I say, no, she was 18 when I left, but I felt like I was 16.
Yes, there
But
you
it's
go.
funny how, like you were saying, that sometimes when we share our stories, we're very worried. And I think we're worried about, especially if it's a bad situation, but I think there's ways that you can tell that story that you're not taking another person down. It's just your truth. And if you're speaking your truth and your experiences out of it, it's fair game, kind of. It sounds
That's
weird
right.
to word it that way, but it happened. That's your reality. And I think it's very brave to share those stories.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's nothing better than a comeback story, right? Like you love to see someone fell down, but they got back up and they got back up better than ever. That's the story of my marriage, my life, my business, and I wear it proudly.
Yeah. And I think, like, to me, I agree with you 100% because I think that's life. Life is those hits, and it's what did you learn when you were down? And when you
Yes.
pick yourself back up again, what lessons do you take with you? And I don't
Yes.
ever, like, to me, I feel like if I stop falling, I stop learning, and I don't want to do that.
That's right. That's right. I love that.
Yeah. It's all my mom. I can't really take credit for it.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Mom. That's a good one.
So what going, there's so much talk around now, the new decade and everybody's going into it. What do you have your sight sort of set on, going into this, new time, this new decade?
So, as you may be imagining, I am working on another book. Of course, I would be. I just feel like I have so much to say. So it's just like, oh, I need to say this. So working on another book, very, very early in that, though, still actually trying to narrow down what the focus should be. But I really want to do a follow up to Induction because this one was meant to be a quick read. It's only about, mm, I want to say it's 80 or so pages. Actually, I
Okay.
think it's like 65 pages, a really quick read. So I really want to blow out some more power ideas and do something with that. And also reworking my show. I want Bold Journeys to have a greater reach because 2020, that anyone that's ever been to the eye doctor know that's perfect vision.
Yeah.
So I'm even more focused on clarity, helping folks get clarity of where they are and what they want to do, what they should be doing, and their goals for their family and their business. And even if folks want to stay corporate and keep their side hustles going, everybody might not feel comfortable being an entrepreneur, but just being clear about that. So that is my thing. I just want to have a greater reach, I think.
Yeah. And I think that's great. I liked what you said. I heard a lady that somebody said, do you think everybody should be entrepreneurs? And she was like, no, I still need employees. Like,
That's right.
and I was like, I love that. She's like,
That's
some people
perfect,
weren't built for that.
It's not for the faint of heart, I tell you.
Yeah. And that's true too. Like, and I think that I always feel that as an entrepreneur, it's, I want to tell people the whole story because I think some people, I've heard so many times, I've owned everything. I've had retail stores and franchises and service industry. And, I've had people say, I used to own a retail craft store and people would say, it must be nice to just sit and craft all day. And I'm like, that is not what happens. That's like owning a bar
No.
and saying it must be nice to sit behind. I'm like, it's not Cheers. Now I'm dating myself, but I'm like, that doesn't happen. Like you're scrubbing toilets and cleaning up people getting sick. And like, it's not, let's not forget those parts.
Exactly. Come on. Like, really, like, what do you think it takes to keep these lights on? And like you said, these toilets working. And yeah, it's so much.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate so much you coming on and sharing your truth and your story with us. And I know our audience will really connect to it. And we'll make sure that we have all of the links as well for people to go and grab your 2 books. And I look forward to hearing when your 3rd one comes out as well.
Yes, I will make sure to let you know. And Tanya, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share with your listeners. It was so good connecting with you and just chatting. It's really I've had a blast. I really did.
And yeah, I agree. You can change the world one conversation at a time.
That's right.
I really do believe that we all have a story that someone needs to hear. And oftentimes we sit there and we think, I don't want to tell my story, or someone else already has a story that's similar to mine. But the thing I think we need to all realize, and what I realized with T, is there is a unique part in each of our stories. Maybe it's the way you viewed something, maybe it's the way you overcame something, but there is something unique about every single story. So get out there and have a conversation, tell your story, listen to other people's story, and see how you can make a difference. Head over to our website at foxtalksbusiness.ca. You'll be able to see all of the links where you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, and anywhere else that you like to get social. And send us a message. Tell us how you liked this episode. If you also click blog at the top of our website page, you'll be able to find this episode and all of the ways that you can connect with T further. And no matter what you're doing, whether you're sharing your story, whether you're overcoming something difficult, or whether you're just sitting in the mud, or if you're at the top of your game, remember, no matter what you're going through, find a way to have fun. Because if you're not having fun, why are you doing it?